Hey everybody, and Tony here with my final Red Ribbon Reviewers contribution of technically 2023, although it's now 2024, which is my album review of Jonas Kaufmann, The Sound of Movies, which was released from Sony Classical Records on September 15, 2023. The conductor was Jochen Riede, the orchestra and chorus were the Czech National Symphony Orchestra and Choir, and the guitarist was Milos Kadich. I was listening to this particular album during my flights from Berlin to Sydney and Sydney to Berlin, as well as listening to it a lot more on Spotify. Jonas Kaufmann's latest album fascinated me because there were some soundtracks that I did grow up with, especially Edelweiss from The Sound of Music, You'll Never Walk Alone from Carousel, The Loveliest Night of the Year from The Great Caruso, Where Do I Begin from Love Story, Nelle tue mani or Now We Are Free from Gladiator, What a Wonderful World from Good Morning Vietnam, Se from Cinema Paradiso, and Nella Fantasia from The Mission. I've been listening to a great number of these songs ever since I was a child, and I've grown to appreciate them a lot more as an adult. And yes, despite my misgivings of Jonas Kaufmann's vocal faults of woofiness and throatiness, especially considering his recent tenures of tackling the more dramatic tenor repertoire, I will always argue that he was and will always be a natural lyric tenor before the PR and before he tackled these more demanding roles such as Otello or Siegmund or even Tristan. Furthermore, his beginnings as a lyric tenor were really well established in the 90s, especially with his duet in The Student Prince, alongside the soprano Dawn Marie Bennett. And even with the current state of Jonas Kaufmann's voice not being as fresh as it once was due to all of that heavy singing, let alone that over singing that he tries to do with the more dramatic tenor repertoire, at least The Sound of Movies does have moments where his lyric tenor voice can be intact and where his lyric tenor roots can never ever be forgotten. And it is through this album that I managed to thoroughly enjoy a lot of the classic soundtracks, ranging from The Loveliest Night of the Year from The Great Caruso, which he managed to sing rather splendidly, although I still miss the more squillo-y voice found in Mario Lanza, and how he can be tender in songs such as Where Do I Begin from Love Story, What a Wonderful World from Good Morning Vietnam, Strangers in the Night from A Man Could Get Killed, Se from Cinema Paradiso, and even Bring Him Home from Les Miserables. And this album also made me introduced to a song that I have learned to love a lot more and especially appreciate with all of my heart, which is Reality from the French film La Boum, considering how well the orchestra managed to go from that G major key and swelled up to that glorious A major key, and to top it all off, Jonas Kaufmann even launched a high A to culminate everything. Aside from Reality from La Boum being one of my new favorite songs, I also appreciated his rendition of Conquest of Paradise from 1492, The Conquest of Paradise, directed by Ridley Scott. Yes, Vangelis' composition was intended for a chorus, an orchestra, and some techno beats as well. However, how Jonas Kaufmann built up from those more lyrical passages to those more bombastic passages was quite well done, and done in a fashion that made me in total awe of this particular soundtrack. And this was also helped by how conscientious he was as both a musician and as a singer. And yes, while I do love those really exciting songs that could build up from lyrical all the way up to more dramatic, such as Nelle tue mani, Conquest of Paradise, Reality, and the final track, which is Serenade, Overhead the Moon is Beaming from The Student Prince, the softer and more lyrical songs were the ones that managed to be at a great advantage for Kaufmann, considering how he never forgot about his lyric tenor roots. Those included What is a Youth from William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, She Was Beautiful, which is the cavatina from The Deer Hunter, Moon River from Breakfast at Tiffany's, and Edelweiss from The Sound of Music. Those were the songs that were really advantageous for Mr. Kaufmann in terms of him never forgetting about his lyric tenor roots, and these were also the songs that also managed to demonstrate that he can still sing lyrically, and there's still that hint of virile freshness present in his voice. And I dare not forget about his renditions of Por una Cabeza from Scent of a Woman. And from someone like me who has never grown up with the likes of 1492, Conquest of Paradise, The Cedar House Rules, La Boom, and Scent of a Woman, it was a great treat just listening to Mr. Kaufmann sing not only Conquest of Paradise, but also Por una Cabeza, Ich küsse Ihre Hand, Madame, and E più ti penso from Once Upon a Time in America. And I've also learned to love his rendition of Ich küsse Ihre Hand, Madame, in which he was able to sound really charming and quite affable, thus also reminding us, the listeners, that he still has his lyric tenor voice still intact. He may not possess the best lyric tenor voice a la Richard Taube or Fritz Wunderlich, or even that of Peter Schreier. But I will always argue that if it were not for the PR, and if we're not for the conductors demanding him to sing a lot more of these dramatic roles, Jonas Kaufmann would have been just as fine as a lyric tenor and would have had a much healthier career as a natural lyric tenor. And songs such as Ich küsse Ihre Hand, Madame, Reality, the Cavatina from The Deer Hunter, the Serenade from The Student Prince, and Bring Him Home from Les Miserables, or Les Mis for short, managed to demonstrate that Mr. Kaufmann was a unique lyric tenor, all thanks to his darkly hued voice, as well as that virile timbre, which made him absolutely laudable, especially in his glorious prime. And this eclectic collection of soundtracks managed to make me more motivated to want to either watch or rewatch those films. The films I would gladly end up rewatching include The Sound of Music, and the films that are rather new to me that I do owe myself to watch include La Boom, The Great Caruso, Love Story, 1492, The Conquest of Paradise, The Student Prince, Once Upon a Time in America, A Man Could Get Killed, Scent of a Woman, Cinema Paradiso, and The Cider House Rules. Especially where the main title of The Cider House Rules is concerned, because I definitely loved that serene and really beautiful melody that Mr. Kaufmann managed to conquer in his own special way. And even though there have been better singers than Mr. Kaufmann in these specific songs, such as Richard Sanderson for Reality, Mario Lanza for The Loveliest Night of the Year and The Serenade, and both Richard Taube and Fritz Wunderlich for Ich küsse Ihre Hand, Madame, I can confidently claim that Mr. Kaufmann managed to put his own spin on these particular songs and do so with sufficient aplomb, sufficient musicianship, and a lot of passion that he managed to imbue in each of these songs. And what's a passionate singer without an equally passionate musician? Fortunately, there was guitarist Milos Kadich, who managed to be just as much of an asset in the softer songs, i.e., What is a Youth, She Was Beautiful, Moon River, and Edelweiss. And it's all thanks to Mr. Karadalich's guitar playing that he managed to make these songs a lot more listenable and way more charming to enjoy, especially where Moon River is concerned. Aside from Jonas Kaufmann using that natural lyric tenor voice to give it a lot of gentility and charm, it was also Milos Kadich who managed to take advantage of his fine guitar playing and also amped up the overall fine quality of the song. And it also helped that Moon River is a song that I hold with a lot of tenderness and a lot of reverence in my heart, considering that this was a song I not only enjoyed listening to when I was a 7-year-old first grader, but also one that I remembered singing to ever since I was at that tender age. And Milos Kadich accompanying Jonas Kaufmann with the Cavatina from The Deer Hunter, She Was Beautiful, was just as touching and just as thoroughly heartfelt, that there were times I felt like my heartstrings were just falling apart due to how beautiful and absolutely heart-wrenching that song really was. Aside from these softer sentimental songs, Mr. Kadich was also quite skillful in fast guitar playing in What is a Youth, especially in the passages where it calls for allegro playing. Therefore, Milos Kadich was just as much of an effective musician as Mr. Kaufmann was as a singer. Jochen Rieda's conducting was nuanced and absolutely accurate all the way through. There were times that he was building up to some exciting moments, and when it came to the quieter moments, he also made sure that everything was well tempered. Therefore, Maestro Rieda was a conscientious conductor who paid close attention to the nuances and even played with them as best as he can. And he also assisted in giving Jonas Kaufmann fine vocal performances all around. And I also salute the Czech National Symphony Orchestra and Choir for being just as fantastic all the way through. Their strongest moments in this album were Conquest of Paradise and Serenade, in which they were all able to do exceptional jobs all the way through. And lest I forget about their additional rendition of Nelle tue mani from Gladiator, in which they were also supplementing their vocal resources to boost that entire song with everything that they got. Even the piano moments in Nella Fantasia were also well done, thus showing that Jochen Rieda and the Czech National Symphony Orchestra and Choir managed to collaborate so handsomely. Jonas Kaufmann, The Sound of Movies, is a definite treat to listen to from beginning to end. This album managed to make me enjoy the movies that I intend to watch in the future and makes me a lot more curious about them, and even managed to make me want to rediscover a good number of them, such as The Sound of Music and Gladiator. Therefore, Jonas Kaufmann, Milos Kadich, Jochen Rieda, and the Czech National Symphony Orchestra and Choir managed to boost my interest for these specific films that I intend to watch in the future and hopefully make a review of each of them, and made me thoroughly enjoy the eclectic choices that were not only suitable for Mr. Kaufmann's voice, but also challenged him simultaneously as a singer and as a musician. With that said, I give Jonas Kaufmann, The Sound of Movies, a well-deserved rating of 5 out of 5 stars. If you are a major fan of Jonas Kaufmann, you owe it to yourself to listen to this particular album. Even if you're not a fan of Jonas Kaufmann, or if you are a huge fan of movies, let alone the classic movies, you might want to give this a go, especially when you want to listen to how he handles a lot of these songs. You might either be surprised at how he managed to modulate his voice for certain songs, or you might find something new to appreciate about him. Whatever your choice, I'm sure that this album will not disappoint. And even though there have been greater singers of the past who have mastered these songs, there's no doubt that Mr. Kaufmann was in a class of his own in this particular album, and he also managed to use his natural lyric tenor voice for select tracks to also show that he still has it, even in spite of these heavier roles and these much more challenging commitments that he finds himself in these days. And for those of you who listened to Jonas Kaufmann, The Sound of Movies, what'd you think of it? Was this album absolutely enjoyable to the point where it motivated you to really want to watch these films over and over again, let alone rediscover them or even discover them for the first time? Did you feel like this album was a fine testament to how naturally fine Jonas Kaufmann's lyric tenor voice was? And did you also feel that this was a good album to still demonstrate that he still has it as a lyric tenor? Did you also feel that the rest of the musicians, whether they be Milos Kadich or all the members of the Czech National Symphony Orchestra and Choir, or even Jochen Rieda's conducting, were all assets that managed to boost the appeal of this album? Or did you find this album not at all appealing and you'd rather just listen to the other singers anyway? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my final Red Ribbon Reviewers contribution for at least 2023, although it's now 2024. Tune in next time for another review, and I hope you all have a great time ahead of you. It's been such a blast recording and producing and editing these reviews for Red Ribbon Reviewers, and I hope to keep on doing a lot more for Red Ribbon Reviewers 2024. So until then, have a great evening, everybody, and I also hope that your 2024 has been really prosperous.